Queen Seraphine sat in her grand throne room, her gaze fixed on the holographic star map in front of her. The galaxy stretched out in all its beauty, yet she saw nothing but emptiness. Her mind wandered back to the day her daughter, Princess Alira, had vanished. It was years ago, but the pain felt as fresh as if it had happened just yesterday. Alira had been the pride of the Empire. Beautiful, kind, and wise beyond her years, she had been destined to lead. But on a mission to a distant planet, she had disappeared without a trace. The Empire's finest soldiers had searched every corner of the galaxy, but there was no sign of her. It was as if the universe had swallowed her whole. Queen Seraphine had put on a brave face for her people. As the ruler of the Empire, she could not afford to show weakness. But at night, when the palace was quiet, she would retreat to her private chambers and cry. The weight of loss had become her constant companion. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps. The royal advisor, Lord Oren, entered the room, his expression grave. "Your Majesty," he began, bowing respectfully. "There is news. A human has arrived. He claims to know something about Princess Alira." Seraphine's heart skipped a beat. She had heard rumors of humans, strange travelers from a distant world, coming to their planet. But to hear that one of them had information about her daughter made her pulse quicken. "A human?" she asked, her voice steady despite the surge of emotions within her. "What does he know?" "He says he has seen a vision," Oren replied, his brow furrowed in confusion. "A vision of Princess Alira. He insists that he can help us find her." Seraphine stood from her throne, her long robe sweeping the floor as she moved toward the balcony. She looked out over the vast city below, the lights of the Empire shining in the distance. It was a city built on centuries of power, but for Seraphine it had become a city filled with nothing but memories. Memories of her daughter, memories of the family she had lost. "If this human truly knows something," Seraphine said quietly, "we must meet him." Oren hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I will arrange the meeting, Your Majesty. But I must warn you, this human is unlike any we've encountered before. He is different." "Different?" The Queen turned, raising an eyebrow. "In what way?" "I'm not sure," Oren said. "But his arrival has stirred up something strange within the court. Some believe he might be an oracle. Others think he may be a charlatan. But there is something about him that cannot be ignored." Seraphine's curiosity was piqued, but her heart remained guarded. She had trusted too many people before, only to be betrayed. The pain of losing her daughter was still too raw to allow herself to hope again, and yet the idea that this human might hold the key to finding Alira was impossible to dismiss. "Arrange the meeting," she commanded. "I will see him." The next day, Marcus, the human in question, stood in the royal palace's grand hall. He was tall, with dark hair and a look of determination in his eyes. He wore a simple traveling cloak, which contrasted sharply with the extravagant surroundings of the palace. His clothes were nothing like the fine silks and metals worn by the alien nobility, but his presence was undeniable. He had arrived with little fanfare, but his story had already begun to spread throughout the palace. Some of the guards whispered that he had brought a strange device with him, a device that could sense energy, something the Empire had never seen before. Others claimed that he spoke of visions and prophecies. But Marcus himself remained calm. His eyes focused on the doors that led to the Queen. When the doors finally opened, Seraphine entered the room. She was as regal as ever, her silver hair cascading down her back, her eyes sharp and full of wisdom. The air seemed to hum with the weight of her presence, and Marcus felt his breath catch for a moment. This was no ordinary ruler. This was the heart of an empire, a woman who had borne the weight of countless burdens. She approached him slowly, her gaze never leaving his face. Marcus swallowed, suddenly aware of the gravity of the situation. His journey had been long, and his mission was fraught with uncertainty. But the reason he had come here, to this alien world, was clear. He had promised a dying man that he would bring the truth to light. And that truth, he believed, was tied to the fate of Princess Alira. "You claim to know something about my daughter," Queen Seraphine said, her voice firm, but not unkind. Tell me, human, how is it that you can know anything about Princess Alira? Marcus stood tall, meeting her gaze without fear. He had learned long ago not to show weakness, especially in the presence of someone as powerful as a queen. Have seen her, your majesty, he replied. In my dreams, in my visions, she is alive, but she is trapped. I believe she has been taken to another world, one that we cannot reach without the right knowledge. Seraphine's heart skipped a beat. She had not dared to believe that Alira could still be alive, but now, hearing these words, a spark of hope flickered within her. Could it be true? Was her daughter still out there waiting to be found? What do you mean, another world? Seraphine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus took a deep breath, his eyes locking with hers. There is a place, hidden, beyond the stars where time and space bend. The beings who control that place have taken your daughter, but I believe I can help you reach her. Queen Seraphine's mind raced. The very idea of another world was nearly impossible to grasp, and yet here was a human, a stranger, telling her that her daughter could still be saved. She wanted to believe him, but the weight of years of grief made it hard to trust so easily. Why should I trust you? Seraphine asked, her voice steady though her heart ached with longing. Because I'm the only one who can, Marcus said. I've seen the path. I know where she is, and I will bring her home. Seraphine stood in silence for a long moment, her eyes studying Marcus. He was just a human, yet there was something in his words that resonated with her. Perhaps it was desperation, or perhaps it was something deeper, something that had to do with the bond between a mother and her child. I will give you one chance, she said finally, but if you fail, there will be no second. I will not lose another. Marcus nodded, his expression serious. I understand, your majesty. And with that, their journey began. The queen and the human, united by a single goal, to bring Princess Alira home. The following day, Marcus found himself walking through the vast corridors of the royal palace. His boots echoed on the marble floors as he moved, surrounded by walls that seemed to stretch endlessly toward the high ceiling. The palace was a world of wealth and power, but Marcus was not impressed by the grandeur. His mind was focused solely on the task ahead, finding Princess Alira. He had spent years trying to piece together the fragments of information that had led him here, to this alien planet. The visions had started years ago, strange dreams of a young woman in distress, trapped in a place beyond his reach, and now standing in the heart of an empire, he felt the weight of his mission more than ever. As he walked, Marcus couldn't help but notice the difference between this world and his own. The people here were tall, elegant, and strange in their beauty. Their skin was an unusual shade, sometimes shimmering like stardust, and their eyes held an intensity that made him uneasy. They moved with purpose, their lives ordered by rules he could not yet fully understand. When he finally reached the throne room, he was greeted by guards who scrutinized him closely before allowing him to enter. The doors opened with a soft hum, revealing the queen sitting on her throne, her eyes fixed on him with an intensity that felt as though she were reading his very soul. Queen Seraphine looked just as he had imagined, elegant, commanding, and regal. Her long silver hair cascaded down her back, and her dark eyes seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 years of ruling an empire. She had a presence that was impossible to ignore. Come closer, the queen's voice rang out, calm, but filled with authority. We have much to discuss. Marcus stepped forward, his heart pounding. This was the moment he had been waiting for, but it was also the moment that could ruin everything if he failed. He had to convince the queen that he could find her daughter, that he could bring Alira back. There could be no room for doubt. I know you must be wondering why I am here, Marcus began, his voice steady. Why a human would come all the way to your empire with claims of seeing your daughter. But I have seen her, your majesty. I've seen Princess Alira in my visions. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing. She simply studied him, her expression unreadable. Marcus continued. careful to choose his words wisely. I came to your world because I believe I am the only one who can help. I know where she is, but it is not a place that can be reached easily. I need your help to bring her back. Seraphine remained silent for a moment, her fingers lightly resting on the arms of her throne. There was a brief flicker of hope in her eyes, but it was quickly masked by the weight of years of loss. Could this human truly bring her daughter back? Could he really be the key to unlocking the mystery of Alira's disappearance? You speak of visions, of seeing my daughter in another world, Seraphine said, her voice calm but edged with doubt. How can I trust you? You are a human, an outsider. You are nothing like the beings who have served my empire for centuries. Why should I believe you? Marcus took a deep breath. He had expected this. He knew the queen would be skeptical. But the truth was he didn't have any other choice but to trust himself. The visions had never been wrong before. And now standing before the queen he could feel the urgency of the moment. Alira needed to be found and he was the only one who could find her. I understand your doubt, Marcus said. But I promise you, I am not here to deceive you. I've been to the place where your daughter is trapped. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's not a physical location. It's a place where time and space don't work the way they do here. But I can guide you there if you'll trust me. The queen's gaze softened for a moment, but she remained silent. It was clear that she was weighing her options, torn between hope and fear. Hope that her daughter might still be alive, and fear that this human might lead her down a path that could end in even greater loss. Tell me more, Seraphine said, her voice quieter now. What is this place? And why is my daughter there? Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the responsibility he carried. The place she is trapped in is beyond the reach of normal space travel. It's not a world you can simply fly to. It's a dimension hidden in the folds of the universe. There are beings who control that place, beings with the power to manipulate time, space, and minds. They took Princess Alira because of her power. She is not just a princess, Your Majesty. She is the key to something much greater, something that these beings want for themselves. Seraphine leaned forward slightly, her expression intense. The key to what? Marcus hesitated, not because he didn't know the answer, but because it was a truth he didn't fully understand himself. But he knew enough to know that Alira was more important than anyone had realized. The power she held was something the universe had not seen for eons. I don't fully know yet, Marcus admitted. But I believe that if we find her, we can stop these beings from using her for their own purposes. We can free her and we can return her to you. The room was silent for a moment. Seraphine's eyes searched his face, as though she were looking for any sign of deception. But there was none. Marcus stood before her, honest in his purpose, desperate for the chance to make things right. Finally, Seraphine spoke, her voice heavy with the weight of her decision. I will give you the resources you need to find her, she said. But know this, human. If you fail me, I will hold you responsible. The Empire will not forgive failure. I will not forgive failure. Marcus nodded, his resolve firm. I understand, Your Majesty, and I will not fail. The journey to find Princess Alira had begun, but for Marcus it felt like stepping into an unknown world. He had always been a traveler, but this mission was different. It wasn't just about exploring new places or solving old mysteries. This time he was searching for someone who had been lost for years, someone who held the key to something far greater than either he or Queen Seraphine could understand. Queen Seraphine had given him access to the royal archives, where ancient maps, forgotten texts, and cryptic writings were stored. These records held knowledge that could not be found anywhere else. But there was a problem. Most of the information was in a language no human had ever read. The symbols, intricate and mysterious, seemed to dance across the pages, mocking his attempts to decode them. He spent days poring over the texts in a quiet corner of the royal library. His mind raced, connecting the pieces of the puzzle. But the deeper he went, the more he realized that the answers were not going to come easily. The mystery of Princess Alira's disappearance was not something that could be solved with simple knowledge. It was tied to forces far beyond what he had ever encountered. Meanwhile, Queen Seraphine had not been idle. While Marcus worked through the ancient texts, the queen had begun gathering information of her own. She consulted with her advisors, her generals, and the council of elders who had served the empire for centuries. She even reached out to distant allies who might have information about the dark forces that had taken her daughter. But every lead seemed to vanish into thin air. The more she searched, the more elusive the truth became. In the quiet hours of the night, Seraphine often found herself alone, staring out at the stars from her balcony. She could see them clearly, millions of tiny lights twinkling in the vast expanse of space. Some of those stars had burned out long ago, their light only now reaching her eyes. She wondered if that was how it was with her daughter, if the light of Alira's life was still out there somewhere but just beyond her reach. But Marcus's arrival had sparked something in Seraphine. She had not expected to trust him, but there was something about him that made her want to believe. He had no reason to deceive her. He was not a politician or a ruler with an agenda. He was simply a man, driven by a vision that had brought him to her world. And now, as much as it terrified her, Seraphine had to admit that Marcus might be the only hope she had left. One evening, after a long day of reading the texts, Marcus approached Seraphine in her private chamber. She looked up from the balcony where she had been gazing at the stars, lost in thought. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, his voice low. "I think I've found something." Seraphine raised an eyebrow and motioned for him to speak. "It's not much, but I believe I've uncovered a reference to a location, a place that could be the key to finding Princess Alira." Marcus paused, his eyes narrowing in concentration. "It's called the Veil of Time. I've seen the phrase in several of the ancient texts, but there's very little detail. It seems to be a place beyond the normal flow of time where the past, present, and future converge." The Queen's eyes widened slightly. "The Veil of Time? I've heard of it before, but only in legends. It's said to be a place that exists outside of our understanding of time, but no one has ever been able to find it." "I believe it exists," Marcus said firmly. "And I believe Princess Alira is there. The visions I've had, they've led me to this place. I can feel it." Seraphine studied him for a long moment, her mind racing. Could it be true? Could the Veil of Time really be the key to finding Alira? And if it was, what kind of dangers lay ahead? The stories of the Veil had always been shrouded in mystery, with no one daring to speak of it openly. It was said that those who tried to enter the Veil never returned, their fates lost to the endless expanse of time. "Tell me more," Seraphine said, her voice calm but filled with urgency. "What exactly do you think is there? And how do we get there?" Marcus took a deep breath. "From what I've gathered, the Veil of Time isn't a physical location like a planet or a star system. It's a place beyond the fabric of reality, a place where time doesn't function as it does here. To reach it, we'll need to unlock the ancient portal, one that can bend the laws of space and time. I believe I can guide you to it." The Queen's mind raced. If this was true, then Marcus had found something that even the greatest minds of her empire had failed to uncover. But she couldn't afford to act hastily. The risks were too high, and the consequences of failure too great. "I will give you one chance, human," Seraphine said slowly, "but we must proceed with caution. The Veil of Time is not something to be taken lightly. If we enter it, we must be prepared for anything. The fabric of reality itself could be altered." Marcus nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty, but I promise you we will find her. I won't let you lose your daughter." Seraphine gazed at him, her expression unreadable. She wanted to believe him, wanted to hold on to that hope more than anything. But the pain of losing Alira was a wound that ran deep. She couldn't let herself believe it too fully. If she did, the fall would be harder if they failed. "I will begin preparations," Seraphine said, her voice steady. "We will take a small group. No one else must know about this. We cannot afford to let word get out." Marcus agreed, and the two of them began to make plans for the journey ahead. They would gather the equipment they needed and prepare themselves for what lay beyond the veil. The time had come. After weeks of preparation, Marcus and Queen Seraphine were ready to begin their journey. The Veil of Time, an elusive and mysterious place, had been their goal from the start. And now, the Queen could no longer deny that they had to take the leap of faith. There was no turning back. Seraphine had assembled a small group of trusted allies, including her top strategist, General Kalen, and a few royal guards. Marcus had brought with him the tools he believed were necessary to unlock the portal that would lead them to the Veil. Together, they set off towards the ancient ruins, a forgotten city buried deep in the heart of the planet's most remote wilderness. The journey was not an easy one. They traveled for days, crossing vast landscapes of dense forests, jagged mountains, and treacherous terrain. Despite the dangers, the group pressed on, knowing that the fate of Princess Alira, and possibly the entire empire, was in their hands. As they neared the ruins, the landscape changed. The lush green forests gave way to rocky, barren hills, and the air grew thick with dust. It felt as though they were walking through a place untouched by time. The ruins ahead loomed like an ancient memory, half buried in the earth, as if the past itself was reluctant to let go. "This is it," Marcus said quietly as they approached the site. His voice was filled with awe. For a moment he allowed himself to imagine what this place had once been, an advanced civilization, thriving with life and knowledge. Now only crumbling structures and faded markings remained. Seraphine felt a chill run down her spine as she gazed at the ruins. This was where it all began, where they might find the answers to the mystery of her daughter's disappearance. She felt a mix of hope and dread. If they did find the portal, what would they find on the other side? The group made their way inside the ruins, stepping over fallen stones and through dark passageways. The air was damp and cold, and the silence was broken only by the sound of their footsteps echoing through the ancient halls. The walls were covered in intricate carvings and symbols, many of which were too faded to be understood. But Marcus seemed to know exactly where they needed to go. "This way," he said, motioning for the group to follow. "The portal is hidden, deep within the ruins. We need to find the Chamber of Time." The deeper they ventured, the more the sense of age and mystery seemed to press in on them. The walls grew narrower and the air grew heavier, filled with the weight of forgotten history. The faint light from their torches flickered against the walls, casting eerie shadows that made the place feel alive with ghosts from the past. As they reached the heart of the ruins, they found the Chamber of Time. It was a large, circular room with a domed ceiling. The walls were lined with ancient runes, each one pulsating with a faint, otherworldly glow. In the center of the room stood a massive stone structure, an archway, unlike anything Marcus had ever seen before. It was a gateway, but it was unlike any ordinary portal. The stone was smooth, yet its surface seemed to shimmer with an energy that Marcus could almost feel. "This is it," Marcus whispered, awe and fear mixing in his voice. "This is the portal to the Veil of Time." Seraphine stepped forward, her eyes locked on the archway. She had never seen anything like it, yet something about it felt familiar, almost like a distant memory tugging at the edges of her mind. She could feel the weight of the moment. This was their chance to find Alira, but Marcus was cautious. "We have to be careful," he warned. "This portal is unlike anything we've dealt with before. The Veil is a place beyond time. It's unpredictable. We don't know what we'll find." Seraphine nodded. "I understand, but we have no choice. We must go through." The team gathered around the archway, each person feeling the tension in the air. The silence was heavy as they waited for Marcus to begin the ritual that would activate the portal. Marcus stepped forward, his hands moving quickly as he placed a series of strange glowing stones into a pattern on the ground in front of the archway. The stones seemed to pulse with energy, reacting to his touch. As Marcus completed the pattern, the air around them began to hum. The stones glowed brighter, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble. The portal's surface rippled like water, and the air became thick with an unnatural stillness. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. Then with a sudden rush, the portal sprang to life. The shimmering surface of the archway split open, revealing a swirling vortex beyond. The colors inside the portal were unlike anything Seraphine had ever seen. Swirls of light and dark, moving in a constant dance, as if time itself was folding and bending around them. It was mesmerizing and terrifying all at once. "This is it," Marcus said quietly, his voice filled with wonder and trepidation. "We're about to enter the veil of time." Seraphine took a deep breath and stepped forward. The portal seemed to welcome her, its energy pulling her in. She turned to her team, her eyes filled with determination. "We find Alira," she said, firmly, "and we bring her home." One by one, the group stepped through the portal, the swirling colors pulling them in. As they crossed the threshold, the world around them seemed to stretch and bend. Time itself felt like it was slipping through their fingers, the past, present, and future blending together in a dizzying rush. For a moment, Seraphine felt a strange weightlessness, as if she were floating in space. And then, just as quickly, the sensation was gone. She found herself standing in a vast empty landscape, a place that seemed both familiar and alien. The air was still, and the sky above was filled with swirling clouds that shifted in strange patterns. "This is the HFY Veil," Marcus said softly, his voice echoing in the vastness of the place. "It's beyond time, beyond space. It's where everything and nothing exists at once." Seraphine's heart raced. This was the moment. They had crossed into the unknown, into a place where reality itself was distorted. But in the distance, just beyond the horizon, she saw something that made her heart skip a beat. A figure she knew all too well. It was Alira. Seraphine's heart raced as she gazed across the vast empty landscape of the veil. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw the figure standing in the distance. It was unmistakable. There, silhouetted against the strange swirling sky, was her daughter, Princess Alira. For a moment, Seraphine stood frozen, unable to believe her eyes. Alira had been missing for years, and yet, here she was, standing before her as if no time had passed at all. The shock and joy of seeing her daughter again was overwhelming. The years of grief, the endless searching, it all seemed to vanish in an instant. "Alira," Seraphine whispered, her voice trembling. "It's really you." Marcus, who had been standing beside her, took a step forward. His eyes followed the queen's gaze and landed on the figure of Alira. There was no mistaking it. Despite the strange shifting environment around them, the princess was unmistakably alive. "It's her," Marcus said softly. "I knew it. I knew we could find her." Seraphine didn't respond. She was already walking toward her daughter, her steps hurried but cautious. Each movement felt heavy with the weight of the moment. This was the reunion she had dreamed of for so long, and yet, as she drew closer, something didn't feel right. Alira stood motionless, as if waiting for something. No, as if she were waiting for someone. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, distant and unreadable. "Alira!" Seraphine called out, her voice filled with urgency. "It's me, your mother. I've come to bring you home." Alira didn't move. Her eyes remained fixed on the sky, as though she hadn't heard her mother's voice. The seconds stretched into eternity as Seraphine closed the distance between them. When she was just a few feet away, Seraphine reached out to touch her daughter's arm. The moment her hand made contact, a strange chill ran through her body, and she pulled her hand back in shock. It wasn't the touch of the daughter she remembered. It was colder, distant, as though Alira were somehow not entirely herself. "Alira, please," Seraphine pleaded, her voice cracking with emotion. "Come back to me. I've missed you so much. We need you. The Empire needs you." Alira's head turned slowly, her gaze finally locking with her mother's. But there was something wrong in her eyes. They were not the warm, familiar eyes Seraphine had once known. Instead, they were cold and distant, filled with a strange, unrecognizable emptiness. "You shouldn't have come." Alira's voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it held a deep, unsettling sorrow. "This place, It changes you. Time does not work here as it does in the real world. You don't understand. You can't understand. Seraphine felt her heart sink. What do you mean? I've come to take you home, Alira. The Empire is waiting for you. We've searched for you for so long. You're not alone anymore. Alira took a step back, her expression unreadable. I'm not the same person you remember, Mother. I've been here too long. Time in the Veil is not like it is in your world. Everything is twisted here. I have seen things, felt things that I cannot explain. I have become a part of this place. It is too late for me. No. Seraphine's voice broke, a fresh wave of fear washing over her. You're still my daughter. I know you are. This place has changed you, but you can come back with me. We can fix this. We can leave the Veil behind and go back to the way things were. Alira shook her head slowly, the weight of her words settling like a heavy burden between them. It's not that simple, Mother. The Veil has taken hold of me. It has taken hold of everything here. And the truth is, I cannot leave. Not like this. Seraphine's eyes welled up with tears. Please, Alira, don't say that. We've lost so much, I can't lose you again. Alira's expression softened, and for the briefest moment, the warmth Seraphine remembered returned to her eyes. But it was fleeting, quickly replaced by a sorrowful emptiness. I'm sorry, Mother, Alira whispered. I wish I could return to you, to the Empire, but I am no longer the person I once was. I can feel it deep inside me. I belong here now, in the Veil, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Seraphine stepped forward, desperation flooding her every thought. No, I won't accept that. You're my daughter, and I will bring you back. I will find a way. I promise you, Alira. But, before she could take another step, a strange energy seemed to pulse through the air. The ground beneath them trembled and the sky above darkened. The Veil itself seemed to react to Seraphine's words, as if it were rejecting her attempt to pull Alira away. The swirling clouds in the sky began to churn violently, and a low, ominous hum filled the air. It's the Veil, Marcus said, his voice urgent. It's reacting to your emotions. It doesn't want you to take her. The more you fight, the stronger it becomes. Seraphine's mind raced. She had to find a way to bring Alira back, to reach her before the Veil consumed her completely. She couldn't lose her daughter again. But Alira had already made it clear that she had changed, that the Veil had a hold on her in ways Seraphine couldn't fully understand. Please, Alira, Seraphine pleaded again. I will not leave without you. Let me help you. We'll find a way together. Alira's eyes met hers one last time, and for a brief moment Seraphine thought she saw a flicker of hope in her daughter's gaze. But it was quickly replaced by the cold emptiness of the Veil. You cannot help me, Mother, Alira said softly. I am sorry. With those final words, Alira turned and walked away, vanishing into the swirling mist of the Veil. Seraphine stood frozen, her heart breaking as the last trace of her daughter disappeared before her eyes. The portal behind them flickered, the air growing thick with the energy of the Veil. There was no time to mourn. The journey had only just begun. And now, Seraphine realized, they had to find another way to save her daughter, before the Veil consumed everything. The Veil of Time had swallowed her daughter whole, and Seraphine stood in the heart of it, lost in the emptiness. She could still see the fleeting image of Alira, her daughter's eyes filled with sorrow and acceptance. Seraphine's heart ached, but she knew she couldn't give up, not yet. There had to be a way to reach her. There had to be a way to save Alira from the hold the Veil had over her. Marcus stood beside her, his expression grim. He had watched the scene unfold with the quiet understanding of someone who had seen far too much of the unknown. He knew the dangers of the Veil, and he knew the risks of trying to pull someone back from it. But Seraphine's resolve was unshakable, and he had promised to help her. We can't just give up, Seraphine said, her voice low but filled with determination. There must be something we can do. We can't leave without her. Marcus nodded, but his expression remained uncertain. The Veil is powerful, Your Majesty. The longer someone stays here, the more it changes them. Alira has been here for too long. I don't know if we can reverse what's been done to her. But we have to try, Seraphine insisted, her voice unwavering. She's my daughter. I know she's still in there somewhere. We have to find a way to break the veil's hold on her. They stood together in the vast, empty landscape, surrounded by the ever-changing, swirling clouds above them. Time itself seemed to bend and stretch in the veil, and the air was thick with the sensation of being caught between worlds. Seraphine felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on her, but she refused to let it crush her spirit. She couldn't lose her daughter again. She wouldn't. I'll help you, Your Majesty, Marcus said after a long pause. But we need to understand what the veil really is. We need to learn more about it. And maybe, just maybe, there's a way to free Alira from it. Seraphine looked at Marcus, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you. I knew I could count on you. Together, they began to search the ruins once more, looking for any clue that might shed light on the nature of the veil. It was a place beyond time and space, a place where the past, present, and future blurred into one. But as they searched, Seraphine realized that the answers were not going to come from old books or ancient texts. The veil was not a place that could be understood by knowledge alone. It was a place that required a different kind of understanding, a deeper connection. As the hours passed, Marcus and Seraphine came across a small hidden chamber deep within the ruins. It was a quiet, still place, untouched by the chaos of the world around it. The walls were etched with symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint otherworldly light. This was no ordinary room. It felt like a place of power, one that had been carefully hidden, protected by those who had come before. Seraphine stepped inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The symbols on the walls were familiar, though she couldn't place them at first. They seemed to speak to her, calling her to understand something deeper, something beyond her comprehension. She closed her eyes, letting the energy of the room wash over her. She could feel the presence of something ancient and powerful, and in that moment she understood. The veil was not just a place, it was a force, one that could bend time and space, but also one that could be influenced. There's something here, Seraphine whispered, her voice filled with awe. The veil isn't just a place, it's a living thing, and it can be affected. Marcus stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room. What do you mean? Seraphine reached out to touch the symbols on the wall, feeling their warmth against her fingers. I don't know how, but I can feel it. The veil is alive. It reacts to emotions, to thoughts. It's not just a dimension, it's a living, breathing part of the universe. And if we can understand how to communicate with it, we might be able to reach Alira. Marcus looked at her, his expression both confused and fascinated. You think you can communicate with it? I have to try, Seraphine replied, her voice filled with resolve. I can feel it. There's a way to reach Alira, but we need to tap into the veil's power. We need to understand its rules, its language. Seraphine closed her eyes once more, focusing on the symbols and the energy in the room. The veil was not something that could be understood by force or logic. It was a place of feelings, of memories, of time itself. If she could tap into that, maybe, just maybe, she could reach her daughter. She reached deep within herself, pushing past the pain and the fear, and found a place of pure love, a love that she had carried for Alira all these years, a love that had never faded. She allowed that love to fill her, letting it radiate outwards, hoping that it would be enough to break through the veil's hold on her daughter. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. The air seemed to still and the world around them felt frozen. Then slowly a soft glow began to emanate from the symbols on the walls, pulsing in time with Seraphine's heartbeat. The veil was responding. It was listening. Alira, Seraphine whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm here, I'm not giving up on you, come back to me. The glow grew brighter, and Seraphine felt a shift in the air around her. The veil was reacting, responding to her love, to her plea. It was as if the very fabric of reality was bending, shifting to allow her to reach her daughter. Suddenly, the air was filled with a strange sound, like the hum of a distant song, and the swirling clouds above parted. In the distance, Seraphine saw Alira again, this time closer. Her daughter's figure was still faint, almost transparent, but it was unmistakable. She was there, standing at the edge of the veil, her eyes searching for something. Seraphine stepped forward, her heart racing. "Alira," she called out. "I'm here. Please come back to me. You don't have to stay in the veil. We can leave together." Alira's figure slowly turned toward her, and for the first time in what felt like forever, a glimmer of recognition appeared in her eyes. "Mother," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I thought you had forgotten me. I thought you had given up." "I never gave up," Seraphine said, tears streaming down her face. "I've always been with you, Alira, and I'll always be with you. Come back to me. You don't belong here." With one final step, Alira began to move toward her mother. As she crossed the threshold of the veil, the air around them seemed to hum with energy, and the landscape around them began to shift. The veil was no longer a prison. It had become a bridge, a path back to the world where Alira truly belonged. Together, mother and daughter stood in the center of the veil, the past, present, and future merging into one. And in that moment, Seraphine knew that this was not the end of their journey. It was only the beginning.